begin. You arrive just in time.
Time to see and listen.
Penumbra is a tale very dear to me. As such, I have created a complete account of the events that take place, with a little extra. Let us begin. And before anyone says that Penumbra, Necrologue, and Twilight of the Archaic don't count, shut up.
Turn the page.
In 1910, the northwestern lead mine is open. It is located in northern Greenland. For 9 years, everything was fine. Miners doing their job and getting paid. In 1919, a large portion of the mine is abandoned. Not long after, the miners in the other areas begin experiencing panic attacks, as well as paranoia.
Yet they delve deeper.
The mine and the surrounding areas begin seeing a major rise in suicides. At this time, Greenland's average suicide rate was 46 out of 100,000, compared to the national average of 29 out of 100,000. With the numbers rising far beyond, the University of Copenhagen begins a study to determine the cause. After some time, the study concluded that the rocks within the mines contained large amounts of pH4, lysergic acid, known for having hallucinogenic properties. This conclusion, however, was not agreed upon by the local inhabitants, many of which claimed that Inuit spirits known as the Turngate reside in the mountains and have made them their home. The study was concluded with mining operations continuing without delay. It is now August 25th, 1938. A new headmaster arrives in the lead mine after an unfortunate accident occurs, causing the death of the previous headmaster. After learning of his predecessor's fate, the new headmaster decides to document his stay in the mines. On August 30th, as the headmaster is in his office, 2 employees burst into the room. The headmaster is furious and demands they explain themselves. In response, the 2 men grab a strange luminous object out of a bag, dropping it on the ground before fleeing. After staring at the artifact, the headmaster grabs it. Feeling an odd sense of warmth and tranquility, he decided to keep it. Only 2 days later, on September 2nd, 2 miners who brought him the artifact snapped and were unable to perform their duties. As such, they were sent back to the mainland. On September 6th, 1938, the headmaster reports that he has begun hearing odd noises coming from the mines. They are described as rattling and howling. Gathering his courage, he enters the halls and realizes that the noises are coming from behind the door that led to the abandoned part of the mine. On September 8th, the headmaster, not being one for heroics, installs a door lock, sealing off the abandoned portion of the mine. For 2 months, nothing unusual occurs. The headmaster rejoices, believing the door lock may have done the trick. During this time, the miners begin meeting deadlines and quotas. Everything is fine. On October 8th, however, the miners unearthed another artifact, this one resembling the first, with one notable difference: its color. Hoping to prevent a repeat, the headmaster hides the blue artifact in the storage area, where it remains. On November 26, 1938, the headmaster makes his next report, this one revealing the low morale of the miners, many of which have resorted to drinking. Not only that, they are now missing deadlines and disobeying orders. On September 3rd, 1939, Nazi Germany invades Poland. World War II has begun. With the situation still deteriorating in the mines, the headmaster singles out the worst offender, a miner named Faraday Sultan, who was noticed for his terrible drinking habits. The headmaster locks him in the wine cellar as an example to the others, with the intention of releasing him once he stops drinking. On December 1st, 1939, the British command arrives in northern Greenland and begins converting part of the mine into a British bunker due to a nearby airfield. All mining operations are cancelled, with all personnel being escorted from the area. Well, all but one. In the chaos, the headmaster forgot about Faraday Sultan, who quickly realizes that everything went quiet. Waving his lantern around, he cursed all of the miners for leaving him down there. It was at that moment he heard it.
Thus, the mine claimed its first victim.
On April 9, 1940, Nazi Germany invades Denmark, conquering it in 6 hours. The British command quickly moves to fully occupy Greenland to prevent any German influence. Over the course of the occupation, the soldiers would expand the mine corridors around the bunker. On August 14, 1945, World War II ends. The very next day, the British personnel unearth another artifact, identical to the one found by the miners in 1938. The British officer has it brought to his office with the intention of examining it. he makes similar observations that the mine headmaster made about its appearance. Before anything else can be done, the British command withdraws from Greenland, leaving the mine in the process. A new mining operation begins in the iron lead mine. The operation lasts until 1952. There are no notable events during this time. Two years later, the mine reopens, with a new mining operation expanding the mine network. It is not long before the miners begin hearing strange humming noises. During the mining operations, the miners begin to get attacked by local fauna, mainly consisting of large spiders. In 1969, this results in Dr. Petyr being sent to the mine with the goal of studying the strange inhabitants of the area. In 1970, a young man named Tom Redwood begins working in the mine.
Dearest Mother, how are you? I am well, better than well. I have just finished my first day in the mines, and there are only 5 more days until I can send home my first earnings for you and the family. I have made some friends, but a lot of people here are kind of gray. They like to keep to themselves. One of them called me deranged, because I like it down here, and they hate it. I don't know what the word means, but I guess it must mean someone who thinks different. I think it was a compliment. After a while down here, the sounds of the rocks and bugs in the air starts to sound a bit like music. Like this place has its own theme. It makes me feel at home. The work is hard, but the pay is good, just like you promised. We seem to do a lot of digging, carrying, and packing. But it's okay. My best friend found a huge spider web, and I have been feeding them bits of food. I think they like it more than I do. It will not surprise you that I spent most of my evenings reading. Zarathustra did not keep me going for long, but I am now a good 3 or even 4 pages into being in time. I sometimes wish that I could spend less time being, and more time just thinking. Being a mine worker is like a dream sometimes, I think, because I get so much time to myself. If only I could cut myself off from the world, with just my books for company, I might emerge a much improved man. Today I was sent to the principal site, which is supposed to be the most dangerous part of the mine. But please don't. It was fine. I don't really believe this amazing place would be dangerous. I heard them arguing about it. They told me Harvey was a bad man for sending me there. But that seemed a bit silly. I don't think he's a bad man. I don't think anyone is. We're all just the people. That we are. And he is just a different person than the others. So it's all good news on day 1. I like it. And knowing that I can help you at home makes all the more worthwhile. I hope I will be able to stay here for a long time. Take care. Your son, Tom Redwood, proper mine worker, November 1970, age 14.
Prisoner of fate.
Later that year, Dr. Petyr discovers the gray rockworm species. He quickly establishes an artificial habitat and records his observations about this new subspecies.
These These are the biomedical journals of Dr. J. Petyr's MSc PhD, completed between the dates of the 30th of March 1969 and the 1st of January 1972, at the Northwestern Research Station within the Northwestern Iron Mine with the permission of the Delta Mining Corp. Subject of study, genus Rhyacophilia, commonly gray rockworm. Aim, to investigate the abnormal presence of the caddis in the Greenland rock. Method, collection of samples, if indeed they can be identified correctly, standard series of testing, observation, and dissection. Personal notes, upon arrival at the mining facility, I was immediately stunned by the sheer volume of fauna that finds a way of life down here despite the conditions. In general, one would assume that species whose natural habitat is past a certain depth would find the intrusion of human activity too great a threat to remain in place. However, almost the exact opposite seems to be the case in this instance. It is curious that certain areas of the mine appear to be entirely without life of any kind, and yet other deeper areas are teeming, and were the situation permitting, I would embrace the opportunity to commit further time to the study of these organisms. However, the purpose of my stay here shall continue to be the genus Rhyacophilia. Samples collected. The collection process has been far easier than I anticipated. The setup of the artificial environment for the rockworm went without a hitch, and the specimens themselves are so abundant as to make keeping them out far more challenging than containing them. They are all of healthy size, perhaps even beyond recorded size, and I can only assume that this is due to some lack of natural predators down here. Specimens are as follows: 3 adults in artificial habitat and 2 larva infants, dead. Observations. The creatures are indeed larger than has previously been recorded. The juveniles seem to still be growing far beyond their natural limits. Although the adults have now expired, I will watch with interest to see what the lifespan is of this particular subspecies. The worms appear to have 3 senses, as would be validated by previous research: taste, smell, and an extremely sensitive sense of touch, which allows them to detect vibrations in the rock in the same way that the human eye senses beams of light and processes them into spatial images. Their natural prey is insects smaller than themselves, and heaven help those insects, because the worm is a vicious and efficient killer. Conclusions. This subspecies of genus Rhyacophilia is highly adapted for its environment. If released above the surface, it seems likely that it would quickly destroy the existing rockworm population, and soon after that, the population would grow to a size far outstripping its own food supplies. Given its increase in size and lifespan already, due to unknown conditions, I would hypothesize that the worm, if left in such conditions for a reasonable period of time, perhaps 3,000 to 4,000 years, could grow up to a further 3 inches, making it a total of almost 1 foot long. However, should these conditions change or indeed magnify, physical evolution could occur far more rapidly.
As Tom is working in the mines, a strange voice calls to him. He looks around, but sees no one. Yet the voice persists, eventually leading him to an off-limits portion of the mine. Shortly after, a cave-in occurs, causing Red to become trapped. Separated from the rest of the miners, Tom began to converse with the voice he had heard, eventually referring to it as his best friend. For 2 years, the mining operations continue, although the foreman, Harvard, notes how various equipment is disappearing or being moved. He issues a formal complaint to the miners, but none claim responsibility. On February 24th, 1972, it was a simple day in the mines. A group of miners had gathered in the chemical storage, when suddenly one of the miners began screaming. The others quickly tried to calm him, only for him to display inhuman strength, as he reportedly injured several workers, fixing damaged equipment, all while making unnatural screaming noises. After a long struggle, the miners managed to restrain the man. One of the miners, Miles Staton, realizes his pupils were dilated. More accurately, they took up more space than should have been possible. Suddenly the man snapped once again and grabbed a stick of dynamite. He then pounced on the foreman as the others attempted to flee. The explosion collapsed the elevator shaft and trapped a large group of miners in the chemical storage area. Miles wrote a note detailing his account of the event. Any rescue attempts resulted in failure, and the trapped miners eventually perished. Fast forwarding to August 21st, a major accident occurs in the mine, causing several casualties. This event would be referred to as Incident 18C and would result in the mine being permanently shut down. With the operations canceled, the mines were left abandoned. It was then that they came from the dark.
Terrible things.
Yet among them remained Tom, who was unexplainably still alive after all these years. Having found a way back to the mine, he made a portion of the mine his home, and his best friend was always by his side, speaking. After all of this, all these tragedies, the mine would soon be noticed by an organization known as the Archaic.